Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to discuss about Visit to the Unknown from Tensei Shitara Slime Talk, and so without any ado let's begin. Visit to the Unknown, 13 moving house, and a guest. The party moved along very comfortably. Traveling by bus was so comfortable that many of them wondered why they had been made to suffer so much up until now. First, there was air conditioning. And they no longer had to wear the hot protection suits and could sit on cushioned chairs. Everyone was smiling. The harsh march of yesterday seemed so unnecessary now. Zaza almost wanted to complain. No, this was no time to complain about anything. But with such luxury before them now, it was hard not to think about it. Zaza was not used to such things happening, and so he was slow to adapt, unlike the children. But then again, he had believed Rindo to be much like himself, and yet Rindo had become fully occupied in driving the bus and appeared to be enjoying it very much. Ahahaha. This is amazing. It was almost as if he were a different person. Rindo. I never would have expected this from you. Zaza muttered. Still, he could not complain. After all, he had been driving for quite a while now, and so this much could be overlooked. The other bus drivers were probably doing the same thing. He believed this because they were all following the lead bus very closely. And the children were really enjoying this too. Barren, cold wasteland spread out before them on the other side of the windows. It wasn't the kind of scene that made you happy. However, Rindo was driving in a way that would entertain them. He drove at breakneck speed, showing off his driving skills as the vehicle just barely avoided being hit by boulders. Instead of honking, he would use the pulse gun to smash boulders that were in the way. The pulse gun was the only weapon that remained after the others were removed. However, it was ridiculously powerful. Even on such rough terrain, he was able to maintain an average speed of 80 kilometers per hour, and it handled better than any small vehicle. It could even float in the air for a short duration, which made it seem more advanced than the tanks used by the Empire. Apparently, it could even go underwater. Anti-radiation, anti-toxic gas, antibacteriological weapons were just some of the things it offered protection against. And it was sealed so tightly that not even a drop of water could get in. And it went without saying that the air was kept clean as well. As long as you stayed in the vehicle, you were guaranteed a much more comfortable living space than any bomb shelter. Was this really just a bus? It was all very hard to believe. Rindo wasn't the only one who was getting carried away. Carmen was as well. And his men were incredibly excited. Captain Carmen. This is amazing. I just came back after scouting the area. This powered suit is so much more powerful than before. I just need to think about it while flying, and I can accelerate to Mach 2 in an instant. And no blackout is caused by it. I can see perfectly. Even if I'm in an electromagnetic storm, all the sensors are displayed in my brain, it understands everything and I can control it. Also, there is this thing called telepathy line. I don't understand how it works, but it allows us to communicate with our thoughts even if we're in an electromagnetic storm. These modifications are amazing. I think as I am now, I could take on the old team by myself. You idiot. That's going too far. Really? Ahahaha. Like that, they talked about how the features had been upgraded and laughed. But they had a right to be so excited. Of course, they did. Zaza understood it very well. After all, he had undergone the same surgery as well. This new body, this battle body boasted such features that changed everything Zaza understood about such things. Feldera had told him that it was the same in structure as Michelle, in other words, the machinery for. He could hardly believe it at first. But when the surgery was over, he realized that it was not a lie. This was because his body was reacting in a completely different way to before. The reaction that had troubled Zaza and had to be suppressed with drugs, that rejection he felt in his brain, had somehow disappeared. It was almost as if he had returned to his human body. It was that natural. For instance, he felt pain when he bumped against a chair. He felt coldness when touching the walls. And he felt the heat when he tried to touch fire. There was a pain when he slapped his own cheek. In other words, he had regained the sense of touch all over his body. His brain was happy at the return of his 5 senses, including pain. This had resulted in a decrease in stress. While he was a cyborg, he was now much more like an ordinary human. That was Zaza. However, he had not returned to flesh and blood either. He knew this, by the monitor that would appear in his brain when he wanted. He could see normal/battle displayed on that monitor. Now push it. The switch in his brain seemed to shout at him. He was currently in normal mode. But Zaza was too afraid to push the switch. He only had to move his will towards pressing it, but he knew that he would be assaulted by more realities that would be hard to accept. Carmen's men had likely already done it. That's why they were so excited now. Ah, Zaza. Let me ask you something. In your brain. Don't ask me, Carmen. If you're talking about the switch, I don't feel like answering that. Zaza was going to ignore it for now. He had thought he was prepared for anything, but he was even more anxious now than before the surgery. It was the anxiety of suddenly being given too much power. Carmen might have felt the same because he nodded knowingly at Zaza's answer. In other words, he also had a similar display in his brain. I see. Well, I understand that. But this really is amazing. Zaza looked at him. So, did you do it then? Yeah. It wouldn't do to test it during an actual fight. I felt as if the flow of time had slowed down the moment I turned it on. It's as if all sensations leave your body and you don't have a care in the world. After all, you can see your entire body in your brain monitor. It's almost as if you can see yourself from the outside and control your body. Carmen was a military man, so he was more concerned with his current state than Zaza, who mainly worked in intelligence. And so he had already checked his new features. Pain, heat, and coldness were now just numbers displayed as information. He could look at how the numbers were affected to see what damage he was taking. He tried cutting himself with a high-frequency blade as a test. The appropriate numbers dropped. However, they returned to normal after a short while and the cut on his arm disappeared. So it has a self-repairing feature. It seems that it does. And when in battle mode, the powered suit the powered armor, can be controlled remotely. You can call it and make it do some scouting or simple combat automatically. Really? I guess it just does everything now. Electromagnetic storms could block nearly all forms of transmissions with the exception of the military's secret satellite transmissions. So it was shocking that these suits could communicate wirelessly. And yet the modification surgery they had underwent now allowed them to not only communicate wirelessly, but control things remotely through telepathy line. It was all very hard for Zaza to comprehend. Maybe he should try pushing it, the devil whispered into his ear. However, Zaza had a will of iron. He knew that they were all looking at him now and smirking. No, I do want to test it out in case of an emergency, but not now. I don't want to become their plaything. Zaza thought. What is it, Zaza? Don't be so modest. You should test the power out if you really want to. Yes, Zaza. I'm looking forward to seeing it. You should go out and fight with Carmen. But why? They were treating him like a toy. He wanted to say. Ramirez is right. We should see which of you is the strongest once and for all. Don't worry. As long as you take less than 80% damage, you will be able to auto-repair. Exactly. We used demon steel, so a little damage won't mean much to you anyway. Feldera was insisting that Zaza and Carmen have a test fight. Even Beretta was nodding. He agreed that such a thing was not likely to lead to any lethal wounds. Did they want them to fight so bad then? Perhaps they had bet money on which of them would win? Such things went through Zaza's mind. He decided that he had to find out. Hey, Mr. Feldera. You wouldn't be betting any money on this, would you? Like, which of us is stronger? The one who is a fighter or the one with more firepower? Surely you and Ramirez would not do something so pointless. He knew it was a little on the disrespectful side, but he still asked this through squinted eyes. The result? Oh, of course, not. Of course, we are not doing something like that. What are you saying? Zaza. Who do you think we are? Why would we modify you just to test something silly like that? Oh, Zaza. I am glad you did not lump me in with these two. So you understand then? I have no interest in such base things. As Zaza predicted, Feldera and Ramirez had become very suspicious in their behavior. While they strongly denied having any such intentions, their behavior was a clear answer in itself. But what was most surprising, was the Beretta seemed to be a part of it. Mr. Beretta, were you betting on this too? Which of us were you betting on winning? While Zaza only thought about it, Carmen asked him straight up. Beretta heard this and froze. Is this Carmen a fearless hero? Even Zaza was surprised and did not know how to react. Ho 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 ho. How absurd, Mr. Carmen. Mr. Feldera and the others would never involve themselves in gambling. It was Sharma who saved the day. You are too wise, Sharma. Zayza and Carmen here are very narrow-minded. You have to look at the bigger picture. Yes. Master is right. I won't say anything this time, but be careful in the future. After Sharma came to their rescue, Feldera and the others quickly caught on and made a successful escape. It went without saying that this was possible because Zayza did not say anything. And so the fight between Zayza and Carmen was dismissed. As they had covered up the fact they had been placing bets, Feldera and the others were now too afraid to push for it. Regardless, the party continued on their way to their destination without much event. No, there were some problems. The automated battle machines that patrolled the area. Monsters that mutated due to the radiation. These were not super beasts. And there were also armored cyborg bandits that were not part of the resistance, the Light of Dawn. Monsters without human hearts that lived in the ravaged land. Such threats would not let these unusual buses go without interruption. And so they were targeted. However, Carmen's men were able to deal with them swiftly. These features are insane. I'm surprised, really. You just turned at a right angle, didn't you? Yeah. I was moving at the speed of sound, and yet I could easily change course. My body is one thing, but how can my brain withstand that burden? I don't know. I don't understand it at all. There was no need for Zayza or Carmen to go out. Super abilities and super fire power. Their notions of what was possible had been destroyed the other day, and now Carmen's men were obliterating the enemy with overwhelming power. Thank you for watching. Like, share and subscribe for more content.